Welcome to the latest edition of First State Kopites podcast. This is episode 31 of season 3. It's a podcast for Liverpool supporters in Delaware and friends of those Liverpool supporters in Delaware. Thanks for listening on your preferred platform. We're available, well, I guess if you're listening, you'll know, but we're also available on YouTube if you are listening. Joined today by Daz. Welcome back to Sean after his St. Patrick's Day gallivanting. I don't know what he was doing on St. Patrick's Day. But anyway.
I wish.
This week, we're going to muse on kind of international break and maybe some of the stories that have kind of broken around what's been going on with various teams. We're probably going to touch on finances, so maybe that's a kind of a warning label. If you're not particularly interested in that, skip ahead. And then we're going to look at the 9 potential games in April. So we're recording this March 28th. It's there's 8 weeks left of the season. Liverpool laboured at times last week to beat Nottingham Forest, but they beat them. They did. Diogo Jota goal put us through, and now we're going to play Manchester City on Easter weekend. And not because I'm religious am I mentioning that, just mentioning it to highlight the FA's inability to seemingly organise something as simple as a game at a venue and a location where people can actually get to. I'm thinking about the trains not actually functioning between the northwest of England, where Manchester City are also, and London. Well, we don't need to dwell on that. Enough people have written about how. Well, just how it doesn't make them look good, but the problem is they don't seem to care. Okay, we're in an international break, which we all, I think, loathe for lots of reasons. I thought what we do is touch on a few different topics. Maybe we'll talk about what football's been played during the international break, and then we can talk about a few other different things relating to kind of funding and the incredible performance of Manchester City's commercial department in the last year, and managing to raise their revenue during a pandemic when most other teams who maybe fund themselves differently, let's put it that way, have had a hard time maintaining their revenue levels. But let's start with the football. One thing from this last week, we're recording this today after the US beat Panama 5-1. If you watched it here on Fox Sports, I hope you had a better time with the commentary team than I did. But Sean, I'll start with you because you went on last time. You could talk about them. I'd be quite happy to talk about Luis Diaz's goal or the Senegal-Egypt matchup.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go at there. What do you want me to focus on?
You watched the US game, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I was done by the time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't much of a game. It was kind of over before it started. I guess it was somewhat competitive for the first 5 minutes or so, and then the penalty. I know I messaged you guys same thing. Like, it was a clear penalty, but the defender literally grabs Zimmerman around the neck, like almost like he's trying to choke him. I don't think I've ever seen that before, trying to defend a corner. And then the ball hits him on the arm. And I don't know if he even got carded, but I was like, how is that not a red card?
He didn't, because he got carded
if you
later.
Grab someone around the neck,
yeah,
on a corner attempt. It's got to at least be a yellow, I would think. But, so they went ahead and then they scored 2 pretty quick around the 20th minute, and it was just awful defending. So I watched up until halftime, and I watched kind of on and off in the second half because, the game was basically over. But I mean, the goal differential is big enough where as long as the USA doesn't lose by 6 goals to Costa Rica, they'll be qualified for the World Cup, which is nice after missing it last time. So I think there were some worries that would happen again, but
so many different things I do want to kind of check in with you about. You know, I think in the Premier League, by the way, if that had gone to VAR, I don't know if they'd have sent the referee to the monitor. I don't know. Just,
well, yeah, it's certainly not if it was Liverpool.
The commentator was
waxing. It would have given the defender the Victoria Cross.
Yeah. But I mean, it was just. I mean, I don't even know technically like what you call it. I don't think I've ever seen that before. The defender grabbed him by the neck. Yeah. I was like, what? Like what are you thinking? But maybe he's gotten away with it before. I don't know, but just never seen that before in a corner.
Maybe the Panama League's rough. I don't know where he plays, but the other kind of thing, I was going to mention, did I see that they actually were carrying a banner around saying qualified at the end of the game?
Yeah, I think they did. I mean, which like technically you're right. Like, because we were messaging about this. Technically, they haven't quite yet, but you know, I think everybody's banking on the fact that they're not going to lose by 6 goals to Costa Rica.
You know, Costa Rica, that's on my dressing room wall.
It is. Sean O'Neill said this.
Well, and then even if somehow they did lose by 6 or 7 goals to Costa Rica, then they'd be in the playoff, the 4th place playoff against New Zealand. So, you know, I think based on the odds, you can count them in. But
I was going to say something Chris Wood, but so I'll talk about another Premier League player. The commentator, did I mishear him say that this was a Champions League performance from Pulisic, who scored 2 penalties, right?
Yeah, he did score a hat trick, but yeah.
But I didn't strike me that I thought, actually, I tell you who I thought I was impressed by, and now I'm going to betray the fact that I did watch some of this, even though I don't really like internationals. I thought Tyler Adams actually was pretty good.
Yeah.
He was quite impressive. I thought the Pulisic commentary, that was just overblown. And I know it's Fox, but it just seemed...
Well, I'm not going to go back and watch it again, but, you know, it would be an interesting one to go back and watch again. Just from the standpoint of like what happened, like how, you know, and my sense is just that Panama was just horrendous defending. I mean, like that's what it looked like to me. Just watching the goals back, it's like what, you know, it's like they don't have any idea what they're doing. I mean, Areola is like 5'8", and he managed to get right in the center of the box, wide open for a header for the second goal. I'm like, how does that happen? Okay. And then the third goal, it was almost like they had been coached to give every USA attacking player 5 yards of space. Like they wouldn't get any closer than that. And I'm like, what are they doing? They're just giving everyone space. And then, you know, they wouldn't have been able to get there anyway. But on the rebound, you'd think the defenders would at least try slide in or something. And they just didn't react at all. I was just like, what? This is the most pathetic defending I've seen from an international team. And like, because that game was very important to them too, because they still had a shot at getting 4th. And it was like they just gave up after the penalty almost, you know. But
I was watching it with someone that said, if I was Panama, if I was the Panamanian president, I'd close down the canal immediately to all U.S. ships. Fuck you guys, no one's getting through.
Yeah, and I didn't watch the second half that closely, but you'd imagine we probably could have scored a lot more if we wanted to. Mm-hmm. We probably just killing the game out, but. Yeah, it was so it was kind of pleasantly not a very close game for USA fans. Yeah,
you don't have the extra.
And I don't know where you want to go with all the other stuff that you had brought up.
Well, I'm gonna go with Daz, and he can carry on talking about. I don't think Stefan looked great, by the way, but that's you know, we can park that. Kind of what's caught your eye in terms of football over the last 8 days? Since the international break took hold?
Well, I'll say one thing. I didn't think that Costa Rica would be the Chris Rock to the US as Will Smith, because they absolutely slapped them. I didn't see that happening. I thought it'd be a way tighter affair, and it ended up, like Sean was saying, it was kind of over before it began. I think, look, the one thing about this entire international break that has made me weak at the knees was Luis Diaz's goal. Oh, yeah. Like, if he can start to recreate that for us, It was sumptuous. And the thing is, like, he's done it before. Like, if you watch his highlight reels, which I might have done, which I swore up and down I wouldn't, but I watched, he's no stranger to that exact same type of goal. Cutting back in on his right foot and bending it into the far corner or into the side netting, because that had to be inch perfect. And it was an incredible goal. I think that for the rest of the internationals, like, kind of shook out like I kind of expected them to. And again, I don't usually pay, like, there's no real juice in South America. I guess there is for the playoff spots at this point, but Brazil and Argentina had cinched up first and second ages ago. There was a little bit of juice, and obviously in these two USA matches, a huge amount. And I think I said to you, is like, that's why Pulisic will always be Lance Corporal America to me. Is like, you've got to be able to finish that chance 5 yards out, like against Mexico. They could have beaten and should have beaten Mexico at home. Like those two chances that they missed are like, it's still mind-boggling to me that as a professional, you're 7 yards out and you hit a ball with your left foot and it almost hits the corner flag. But it does seem like the US is going to go through, which I'm very excited about. I think that it's important that the US has a decent World Cup, and I just in my heart of hearts, it's just a feeling, and I think they will. If Berhalter gets his act together and decides to pick an actual 11 that he wants to go with,
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's literally every single match. I talk to other people about this, and they give me a hard time for criticizing them. I have never seen a manager that changes the starting 11 every single time the team's going out there for a World Cup. Like, it's never the same 11. I just, I get the rotation thing, but it's really weird.
He's tinkering. It's tinkering. Yeah. It's I think trying to find the right blend, and he has to, like, he doesn't have training ground to necessarily be able to do that. So he's using his game, which is a dangerous game to play, using matches to try and find your best 11. It used to drive me nuts when Rafa would do it.
Yeah. It worked last night because I looked at the lineup and I was like, Shaq Moore, Areola.
Mm-hmm.
You looked at, I don't think I'd seen Ferreira play that much before, but he looked really good and everything worked out fine. But
but there was chemistry between some of those players because they played together in the club. So I do agree with that. Mm-hmm. It's sometimes it's tough to engineer the type of synergy that you need to have a team firing on all cylinders if you have people from all over the countryside. So it was I think he got it right yesterday. And like I said, I think that moving forward, if we do make it to the World Cup, if Costa Rica don't somehow pull 6 goals out of the veil, then I think we'll do well in this World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of looking forward to it, even though I know there's a whole bunch of issues around where it's being hosted and when it's being hosted, and I'll probably end up watching it.
if Pulisic and the other things, Gio Reyna, my God, he is such a talent. If he could just stay healthy, that one run that he had on last game they played was just unbelievable. He beat like 5 players. He just gets hurt all the time. If he and Pulisic can stay healthy, and they'll also need who's the midfielder? It's slipped my mind. Played
Weston McKennie.
McKennie.
I think those are the 3 key players for them to do really well. They got to have all 3 of those healthy and playing. But if they do, then they're a really dynamic team. But
I was impressed with Zimmerman too, in the games that I've watched him in. Like, he's a very good systems player, kind of a no nonsense, no bullshit defender, and sometimes you need that.
Mm-hmm.
So he stuck to his task admirably. There was once or twice that he might have been caught out, but overall I was impressed with him.
So that's way more mileage than I thought we were going to get out of any of the international games, never mind all that time on the US.
It's fresh. And I did want to mention one thing, Daz, the inaugural pig roast in Baltimore. You failed to mention that. I know some of our friends were jealous. They said they wanted to go to a pig roast. So,
well, the pig was roasted, beverages were consumed, insults were hurled, banter was had. I've got one photograph. A friend of mine came, like, he was playing freezing ass golf because it was cold here yesterday. I took a photograph, and one of our buddies pulled his golf glove out of his back pocket and slapped him across the face with it as I took the photograph. And bear in mind, this guy's about 6'75" and he weighs about 7,000 pounds. It was a terrible idea. He went south after that. And he'd been drinking all day too. So Big Lou, if you're listening.
Must have been something in the air.
I'm glad you didn't rip off too many heads.
Must be something in the air slapping people across the face yesterday.
Right?
Must have been a thing.
The day after the Oscars. Yeah.
So you almost allowed me to pivot really well there, Daz. So I'm going to go back to what you said about like that you are going to watch the World Cup, even though it's in Qatar. We did talk about some kind of geopolitical stuff that before we started recording that kind of might be, I guess it's happening out there. You know, I was joking earlier saying that City's commercial department are doing a fantastic job in kind of generating all that revenue. So they're now number one in Deloitte's list. And I think someone asked, did a trophy come with that? One of the things that I don't know which way to go with this, but there have been several pieces written, which in the last couple of weeks by serious journalists, including Rory Smith of the New York Times, suggesting that Qatar might be willing to bail on football after the World Cup because, in some senses, the job is done in terms of the sort of visibility they've had. But the other thing they really haven't liked is the scrutiny on kind of their laws, their policies, and obviously all of the things that have happened in building the stadiums. So
human rights violations,
absolutely. Well, on many levels, but not just you know, kind of mistreating migrant workers. Allegedly, I'm sure they'd say. But I think there's an interesting notion that you know, clearly there's a lot of noise around PSG. The fans aren't very happy. They seem further away than ever from winning a Champions League. What do you so is that in your world like a realistic scenario that we're actually talking about a Qatar-less PSG after next year's, or certainly shortly after this year's, where are we, World Cup?
In the time of the pandemic, years don't really have much meaning.
Yeah, right.
I think.
Go ahead,
Sean. Okay. I will give you the floor.
Yeah, you know, Qatar hosting the World Cup is just kind of ridiculous. You know, when you think, I mean, we're kind of used to it now because of how long we've been talking about it. But like, you know, what are we doing? They move the timing of the World Cup from the summer to the winter. You know, Qatar's hosting it. It's just odd. They're using almost like slave labor to build these stadiums that are not going to get used again after they do it.
Allegedly.
Right. But, you know, it's like my mother actually asked me, because I told her that the game was on last night, the USA match. It's like, oh, you know, put this on. They're looking for something to watch. And she says, where's the World Cup this year? And I said, oh, that's funny. It's actually in Qatar. And she said, Qatar? And I said, oh, yeah, they moved the time of year. It's not going to be in the summer. It's going to be in the winter. And, you know, she doesn't know anything. But her reaction was like, that's just bizarre. And I just sent her, you know, one of those faces with the dollar signs on it. And I was like, that's your answer. It's just, you know, it's kind of it's the World Cup. So everybody will get excited and we'll watch and, you know, it'll be fun, whatever. But it's just, the whole thing is sort of an indictment of where the game is right now. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You go from Russia to Qatar and, you know, it's like they're not even trying to hide it anymore, how corrupt the whole system is. And then we see it with, you know, these oil state owned clubs, you know, who just don't compete on the same, you know, standards or levels or whatever you want to say. I mean, there's the money part of it, but there's also just like the fact that they're not a traditional owner of a club. Like, they're doing it for sport washing reasons, you know. They're not doing it because they love the club or they wanted to own a club and they want to invest, or, you know, whatever the reasons that owners have. And they don't compete on a normal playing field. And now it's almost to the point where, like, changing FFP, they're trying to change the rules so that, you know, they don't have to compete on any kind of level playing field. And if you can, you know, double the amount of every transfer and you know, outbid anybody on wages, you know, then it just makes the game kind of a joke. I mean, it's, you know, there's always been wealthier people than others, but not when you're talking about Saudi Arabia coming in, you know, as like a nation state, one of the wealthiest in the world, and buying a club. So, you know, on the one hand, it's kind of absurd and ridiculous, and I don't like any of it. But on the other hand, it's like, it's still a World Cup, and I'm still going to watch it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it and all that. And I'm glad the USA is making it, because it only comes along once every 4 years. But
for now,
you know, right. Yeah. For now, yeah, they want to make it. And it's just, you know, at the end of the day, it does come down to everybody wanting to watch these games, regardless of the corruption and everything else. And that's how they're making their money. And so it's, you know, I'm not going to stop watching because I disagree with all the stuff, but it's kind of a shame that's kind of the way that things work. But anyway, that would be my long rant about Qatar. I don't know about, like, Qatar's getting out of, I haven't seen that. I guess it would kind of surprise me, but maybe once they've had the World Cup, that's good enough for us. We're out. So
I think a large part of it, the logic was about not enjoying the scrutiny of kind of, say, the what passes for the norms in Qatar, which is not dissimilar, obviously, from several other Middle Eastern nations. So I don't want to take a slight detour before turn it over to you, Daz. Was it just me, or were Kane's comments like completely vacuous in the middle of last week, where he talked about banding together, captains banding together to make a statement about Qatar and kind of, you know, how the players felt about playing there? And when he was probed about it, it seemed to suggest he hadn't even spoken to players on his own team, like Hugo Lloris, which you would have thought would have been a starting point before making some statement at a England press conference. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I missed that. What did he say? Well, you kind of gave the gist of it there, I guess.
He sort of said, he basically said, I think it would be a really good idea for us to band together and kind of make a statement. And then when pressed, it seems like he'd not even talked about it in his own dressing room, which seemed like almost the anti-Henderson thing to do, like to tell people about something and you haven't actually taken any action whatsoever.
It sounds like it's half-baked and a little virtue signaling is what it seems like to me. It's you want to. He's taken on a cause all of a sudden, and he's just pushed it out into the world half-baked. I can get behind the sentiment, but all right, mates, does that mean that you're not going to play for England in the World Cup over there then? Like, what's your stand going to look like? A strongly worded fucking email with a couple of exclamation points at the end of every sentence? Like, what are you going to do as the captain of England who has qualified for this World Cup? What's your stand going to be? It's like those people that put up like Ukrainian flags as their background or their avatar for Facebook. Like, it's how invested in making a change or some sort of substantive change. I guess we're all guilty of it to a certain extent. And what you might be well-meaning enough to think that, yes, I wouldn't mind seeing change. But if you have the platform and you're England's captain, like, to your point, why not go and talk to Jordan Henderson standing next to him in training? He's like, hey, Jordan, what do you think? Like, you have traditionally been very good at prompting subjects like this. Like, look, you have a pretty good track record. Like, he's standing right, he's in training with him right next to him. Like, you would not even Hugo Lloris, like Jordan Henderson for one. Like, it's like, why not talk to him? I don't know. It's just, yeah, vacuous is probably the best way of putting it. It was definitely half-baked. Someone's probably put something in his ears like, this isn't right, we need to do something about it. And he's just probably mimicking what someone else has told him without really thinking it through.
Well, I imagine he may be mimicking the fact that Henderson's got a lot of credit from different people about things he's done. So it's like, oh, maybe I should jump on that bandwagon. Interestingly, subsequently, Henderson was interviewed and said that he had actually spoken to Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson about Qatar and what could possibly be done by the players, and which is nothing less than you would expect. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to take us down a Kane route. Just sort of. Again, there's something.
Well, that kind of ties. It kind of ties into what I was going to say. Anyway, it's what is the breaking point for us as fans? Like, when is it going to be enough? If you're trotting out Arsene Wenger to extol the virtues of a World Cup for every 2 years because it's good for the sport, like it's when it. So I remember when the Super League came up, my dad said he would stop watching Liverpool. My dad played for Liverpool. My grandfather, his father played for Liverpool. And for him to say that he would stop watching Liverpool if they joined the Super League, I thought was a tremendously strong statement. And he would have too. But so what is the breaking point for us? When is enough going to be enough? Like, we're like, we love the sport and we realize what's going on in Qatar is horrendous, and oh well, like I guess it's just what are we anesthetized to the horrors that come with sports washing, and like if you look at like Roman Abramovich was probably until such time as Putin invaded Ukraine was the poster boy for it. Like look what he managed to wash an image that was almost unwashable, and so the potential is there, and like as long as our team is winning, or as long as things are going our way, and we don't have to round on the owners, which sounds like is happening in the Qataris at PSG, it can be business as usual in our eyes, and like we'll kind of wring our hands a little bit, or we'll throw up a flag, or save Palestine, or well, what about stuff? Because that seems to be all that we do as well. Is like these people are like, well, what about what's going on in Yemen? What about what the US is doing? It's like just people want to draw false equivalences and what about stuff? It's like, but for me, it's like, is there a break point? Like, is there a time when we're going to say, it's like, I can no longer watch these teams play? And I love football. Like it's been my first love since I was a kid. And I'm asking myself that question as much as I'm putting it out to everybody. Like, at what point do we say, click? Because that's the only way it's going to change. We stop buying jerseys. We stop going to stadiums. We stop watching televisions. We completely switch off. And I'm just not sure if we're ever going to reach that point. Yeah. Like, what is it going to be?
That's a big question. I don't know if you want to take a shot at it, Sean.
No, but I'll just say, like, we did talk about it a little bit when we had Jimmy on in Newcastle. The whole Newcastle discussion. Yeah. What would you really do if you were like, if the Saudis came in and bought Liverpool, like, would you stop supporting the club? I mean, I'm sure like some people would, but I can't say for sure what I would do. I don't know. I think I would consider, but I doubt that I would just, how do you just stop being a fan? Like, it's not easy to do. On the one hand, it is easy, but in reality, it's not. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you have this. It's not the same issue, but you have similar issues in all sport. And the one thing I'll say, I said it a little bit in the chat the other day, is that every time a player gets paid a ton of money, it's always big controversy, and everybody talks about, oh, look at how much they get paid for playing basketball or football or soccer or whatever. But like, people lose the context of the fact that like the owners are the ones making all the money, right? I mean, the players are making good money, but the owners are increasing their value exponentially over time in most of these sports for doing basically nothing. I mean, they just hire people to manage the club. They don't even have to make a big profit because the TV revenues just go up constantly over time. And the players are just getting paid based on the value. I mean, they're the ones that are actually out there entertaining everybody. So I don't have a problem with the players getting paid. I have a problem with all the money in the sport to begin with. But I mean, I'm happy. I'm usually happy for the players to get, chunk of it, because at the end of the day, they're the ones out there putting the work in and doing all the entertaining.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'll say about it. But it is out of control, and I don't know what it means long term. I mean, part of me thinks that the Super League is a better alternative than the direction we're going. Because then at least you'd have secured a somewhat level playing field for a group of teams, rather than having 4 or 5 teams that just play on a totally different level than everybody else. But I don't know. I mean, I just, part of me feels like some type of Super League is inevitable eventually. I mean, the direction that things are going, I don't see how that's not going to happen, because you have a group of 10, 15, 20 clubs that bring in 90% of the revenue, worldwide in terms of club teams. And it's probably even a bigger percentage of that from just the top, 7 or 8 clubs. What's the Premier League? What's the Premier League's value if you take away Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal, for example? What's the value of the TV? How many viewers are you getting? I think that's really what's driving it from those clubs' parts, is that they get held to a standard where you get 20 clubs are allowed to vote on issues, and they feel like they're the ones that are bringing in all the revenue. From a business standpoint, I get it, but it just creates all kinds of problems, with how things have been historically, and I think a lot of what everybody loves about the game. So,
I mean, I just think there's so many levels to this. But to go back to your question, Daz, about what would it take? I mean, I do think there's so I remember a guy I grew up with who stopped watching Liverpool when there were like 2 or 3 Liverpool players who actually came from Liverpool in like the whole squad, because he didn't believe it was like representative of the team that kind of he was brought up with. So I do think there will be some of that phenomenon, and I have to, so personally, and I'm sure someday I'll be proved wrong, but I do think if we had City's owners, I would feel very differently about this football team than I do right now. I think one of the other things I think is significant is all of this money. A lot of this money is there as a consequence of some of the people who are now seen as the villains. Abramovich being one, kind of pumping all this money in and having all these other clubs having to kind of keep pace. And one of the remarkable things that I'd leave it with is Jonathan Wilson was talking about this in his article the other day, where he said that Liverpool have done a remarkable job. They spent 200 million less than Manchester City over the last 5 years, and they managed to compete with them. And that's that's an incredible feat. I think the football landscape, I mean, I know the fans won't agree with this. I had some Watford guy hassling me last weekend about like, well, you better make the best of this because it won't last, but like, I think what Liverpool have done ought to be celebrated by the Arsenals, at least of this world, because it should be possible for them as well, even if it isn't possible for our friend from Watford.
But he's got a good point, Paul, because similar type of thing happened.
Or Jonathan Wilson?
Well, no, I'm not. I'm saying that I think eventually, I think eventually people are going to catch on to a lot of what Liverpool's doing on the analytics side. It's not going to be our secret forever how they're evaluating players and kind of figuring this model out, which has kind of been the whole project for FSG all along. But the same thing happened in Major League Baseball. And eventually all the big clubs figured it out, and they started spending more money on the analytics guys than all the other people were. And, the field, I guess, is probably a little bit more level than maybe it was in the 90s or before. But I mean, I think it's for a while you had like teams like the Oakland A's that were able to compete on a shoestring budget, and the Red Sox kind of took advantage of some of this stuff for a while. But now, like, everybody's kind of doing the same thing that they're doing. So I think eventually you're going to get these oil state clubs and they're going to figure it out. And they're going to start hiring rocket scientists and doing all the things that Liverpool are doing behind the scenes to kind of make this happen. So yeah, we should enjoy it now.
I'm pretty sure the Phillies aren't copying Billy Bean, by the way. Just doesn't a local aside. Phillies still seem to be very old school.
I know we talked about this, and this might be a good segue. We were talking about that Jonathan Liu interview on the Wrap about exactly what we're kind of alluding to here is like this quest for zero defect in large clubs, like looking at ours. Like if you need 97 points to win a league by 2 points, like is that sustainable? And if it's not, like, and I think I said this to you, Paul, beforehand, is like I like a little bit of failure. It's kind of the spice that completes the roux. Like you need the lows to be able to have the highs. But if you're always chasing that dragon, if you always need to win to be competitive, like it kind of detracts from like almost the human nature of the sport. Like it's like automaton like, and the way that I consume now has changed. And I think I said this to my wife, like, you just don't seem to enjoy football the same way you did before. and she's not wrong. It's like it ruins days. Like if the team plays like crap when we drop points, and then all of a sudden now we're now 17 points behind City, knowing full well that we're probably never going to be able to make that up. It's like it just kind of spirals to where like it's the way that you consume and the way that you appreciate the sport is completely skewed. Leicester won the league and when everyone kind of was tripping up around them, and people will point to that as being like it's one of the best things about the league is that potentially anyone can win it. But it feels more and more now with your analytics and the money that's being pumped in. It's like you're removing that potential for drama almost. Like it was like watching the Germans play in the 70s, like that Teutonic precision where every pass was pre-scripted, the box was always there. Like it became less fun to watch because there was less chaos to it. Like everything had to be ordered. And I don't know, I'll leave it up for you guys, but I don't know if things have changed for you and it's only been like the last 4 or 5 years since we started becoming good again. Like the need for trophies, the need for success, like it's almost like we are entitled to it, or we deserve it, or like it's part of our footballing DNA and heritage. I do like, I kind of miss the chaos a little bit, like where it was okay to drop to go on a 3-game losing streak because you know you'd win the next 6, like because you knew that other teams around you would drop points. Even Ferguson in his pomp would drop points. So I don't know. It's I just feel like it's the way that we consume the sport now. It's almost like that thing is like which is a chicken and egg. Like what did we create this, or was this given to us? Like this like this need for zero defect.
So I think I'm too close to where this team is right now to be really objective in trying to answer that. I do think it's unfair that this team is so good and needs to be like perfect to win things that would have come much easier to them 10 years ago even. The season that Newcastle beat United 5-0, United still won the league because it was okay. It was possible to do that and still win, right? It no longer feels like it's the case. I'm going to pivot because we've probably not got much time left because we were going to talk extensively, but maybe we'll just talk succinctly about kind of the upcoming games because I think you've raised some really good points, but I need to feel excited for the next month. And I don't need to spend too long contemplating right now, but I think it might come back to that. The other thing I'd say is, by the way, that German team had Beckenbauer and Muller in it, and they weren't bad players either. So
no, they weren't.
So systems are systems, but you all sometimes need the occasional genius. So there's potentially 9 games with Benfica in the quarterfinals. Let's at least talk about the 2 games against City upcoming. what are your hopes and expectations around those? And I put in the agenda some things about, what are some more risk factors? Because so Trent was supposed to be out for weeks. So some positive news about that, but and then anecdotally, COVID cases in the UK are out of control. I mean, that surely is going to impact how April's going to play out. And there's at least 2 occasions when we're playing 3 games in like 7 days, which looks like squad rotation will be absolutely essential. So I'll go to you, Sean, to kind of kick it off. Let's focus initially on the City games. What are your hopes and expectations around those?
Well, the first City games on April 10th. That's the one that I've marked my calendar for. That's the one in the league.
Yeah.
That I would think that'll be a classic. I think that one. Going into the match, it's a league match. Both teams need it. That should be an intense one. And our game. I mean, the one thing is, even though the way City are sort of organized is not really fair, and Pep's super annoying and all that. Our games with them are always really good and entertaining. Just that the styles are really interesting. I was listening to someone this week talk about like just how good Bobby is against them, and not to be surprised if it's kind of like our traditional front 3 in that match, because Bobby's so good against City. I mean, he just, it's like he knows how to make them panic in the back. So yeah, I mean that one should be fun. And then there's the FA Cup match that same week. We got Benfica before and after. One thing I was saying, the Benfica matches, the first match we play at Benfica, and I could totally see a scenario where we draw that match and everybody's freaking out, and they shouldn't, because I'm guessing Klopp's going to rotate a little bit because we got Man City right after that. And so if we get a draw at Benfica, I'll just say in advance, don't freak out, because we'll have him back at Anfield, and we'll take that one. But yeah, it's crazy the number of games, and following the FA Cup with Man City, we got Villa and then Man United and then Everton. I mean, it's a crazy run of games we have coming up. So, but it'll be fun.
The Villa one's postponed, actually.
Oh, is it really?
That's when the City game
Oh no,
is.
that's right. Yeah.
I
see that now. Yeah.
So I do want to talk specifically about the European Cup, but Daz, your thoughts on the City games and what surrounds them?
I'm going to throw a cat squarely in amongst the winged rats. Would you rather beat City in the league match and lose the FA Cup match, or vice versa?
Not even a question. FA Cup, don't really care. That's a bonus.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because I think Sean's right. The way that Klopp and Pep play, it feels like there's only one way that they can play each other. Like they can't jab out. Like I think they're incapable of. It's one of those heavyweight bouts where they just they just want to slug it out. And for your casual fan, you're like, this is unbelievable. But for me, sitting in my couch at home, it's fucking heart attack inducing.
Well, it's exciting anyway.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it's City play this like incredible possession. They got to have Pep styles. They got to have possession all the time, and Klopp's is to play that super high line. So that's just like you're going to have a lot of mixture in the midfield, a lot of craziness going on when you combine those two. So.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see because Pep also has and Atletico won't be kind to him. They'll make him work for everything he gets. I'm not saying that Benfica won't for us, but we've played against those ball bags enough times to know that they are not going to make it a pleasant day out.
Put yourself in Diego Simeone's shoes and think about what you would do if you were him and you're playing against a Pep team. There's no question. They're going to be kicking their players up in the air from minute one.
One of Bayern's failures in the Champions League over the last 10 years was they lost a semi-final, I think it was, to Atletico, which apparently drove
Guardiola was that the year
crazy.
that was the year they played at Real Madrid in the final, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. The first time, I think it was the first time. Yeah.
It's so I think that the league match will probably, and again, I don't think that Pep can afford to rotate. He's got basically 3 world-class teams at his disposal, but I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to rotate. Well, see, don't believe the hype, Paul. Like, you're buying into the tabloids, like, oh, it's the poor little rich team that all have the poor players. Oh, they don't have the type of squad depth. Like, garbage. They got at least two.
I think the problem is who he's got to rotate, because he's not got Diaz, who's injured, and basically he's got like a whole load of midfield players that he can rotate to his heart's content. So I think his problem is rotating and getting a different effect, which is what we can do.
True. So I fancy our chances against them in the league match, simply because we're sandwiched between that Champions League draw, and it will not be kind to him.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that Benfica is going to be a walk in the park for us either, but I think that Klopp, to Sean's point, can probably get away, at least in the first leg, with experimenting with maybe some younger players. I could see Jones in there. I could see Harvey Elliott getting 60 minutes. I fancy our chances in the league more than I do the FA Cup.
So I can just put this Benfica game in a bit of context. So yes, this team once won the European Cup. I think twice won the European Cup back in the 60s. But generally, so they're in third place in the Portuguese league behind Porto. They're easily the worst ranked team left in the tournament. Perhaps the more significant thing for me is, this about 1981, the path to the European Cup win, our third European Cup win. Sean is looking. So we played
in the quarterfinals.
We played Benfica in the quarterfinals. We won 4-1 in this. I think it's called the Stadio de Luz, Stadium of Light. And I can't remember what happened at Anfield because it really didn't matter after we won 4-1 away. Semi-finals, we played the first leg at home against Bayern Munich. It was 0-0. Played the away leg and won 1-1. We did win 1-1. It was 1-1, and the away goals took us through to the final, where we played Real Madrid in Paris, and our left back scored a goal in the 83rd minute. So just saying, if Andy Robertson scores the winning goal in Paris against Real Madrid, I don't know. I may never watch another game actually after that, because that just feels like
that'll be your breaking point.
That will be my breaking point. Yes. So I Jones actually had an awesome performance against Porto away. So whoever we pick, I think the potential for us beating them quite comfortably is high. Ajax had completely outplayed them over 2 legs, because I have a friend who is an Ajax fan, and just they did not put the ball in the net. So.
I would expect us to win both games, but I'm just saying, if we don't win the first game, I guarantee you there's going to be a ton of panicking, especially with the games with City coming up, and it'll be irrational panicking because people shouldn't. If you're playing a Champions League quarterfinal away, I don't care who you're playing at that point. They can always kind of pack the box and defend, and you might not score. And, if you come away with a draw or something like that, it's not the end of the world. So that's all I'm saying. I think we'll win. Hopefully we'll win, but.
So Paul, I don't know why Paul won't let us have nice things. Why did he have to mention COVID? Because that's the one intangible.
It is. Yeah.
It's like, that's the one intangible.
Yeah.
They cannot afford to scrap any more matches. So what are you going to play every 32 minutes because you have to wait 5 days to play the next game? That's the one thing that really worries me. And again, it's like, are they going to try and stuff the genie back in the bottle and tell fans that they can't come and watch again? The stadiums have to be played behind closed doors or diminished capacity. That's not fair. Especially if we start winning shit again, because I feel like we were robbed of that when we won the league. We didn't get to absorb that and to live in that moment as much. So damn you, Paul, damn you to hell, sir.
I don't think they will do that with fans, because they didn't really do that during Omicron, and this spike isn't going to be that big. So,
well, I don't know about that latter statement, but the UK government seems to have decided that the best policy is to try and ignore it. So that's kind of
it's no different here.
I would. So anyway, this is totally off the topic here, but they've actually stopped funding the statistics collections. The UK government.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Wow. Yeah. That is a different level.
So said some left-wing newspaper that I'm sure Boris wouldn't agree with. But anyway, so COVID, Benfica. I may regret saying this, but I honestly think COVID is much more a risk to our April than Benfica are likely to be. And the other thing, get one more take from you, Daz, is we play on Tuesday, we then play City on Sunday, and then we play our next game on Wednesday. City
That's a veritable vacation for our guys.
It plays on the Wednesday. Nice day out in Portugal. Score 4 goals. It'd be nice, wonderful. They take it easy. Anyway, City plays on Wednesday, Sunday, and Tuesday.
Happy days.
So if they have had if that first game of theirs is anything like you might imagine it to be, that their tie won't necessarily be settled by the time they get to the Tuesday. And I think we all know what Pep would really love to win. So,
I think the bigger risk to them is the second leg of the Champions League after playing us. That's going to take, they will have played the previous week on the Wednesday, and then the game against us is going to be brutal.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have to go back and play Atletico.
Yeah.
I think this is all Atletico has to play for at this point, isn't it? Last time I looked, they weren't close to anything in the league.
I don't think so. They're actually having a pretty bad year in La Liga.
But they'll make top 4 at this point. I think that's yeah.
They're 12 points back Real Madrid in 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So they're only 4 points ahead of Real Betis. So that's not great for them.
So I want to do one more on look ahead, but I'm just developing this kind of ideal view of the world, which is that we have very comfortable against Benfica. They have very hard against Atletico. Grealish gets upset with being fouled so many times and doesn't get the calls in Europe like he does in England. We beat them, and then I'm able to watch the game on that following Tuesday with us pretty sure we're going to be in the semi-final, and them struggling to make it against Atletico. Wow. Okay, we should end it there. No, one more. So we do have some games after. We obviously play City in the FA Cup. I think that's probably one to look at after we play them in the league. But then we've got a couple of really tough home games against teams that are really flying right now. Let me check. Manchester United and Everton. Right. Okay. Just final word on. I mean, it just feels like if we get through all of this, put COVID to one side, we have few injuries. We couldn't ask for 2 better fixtures than those, could we? On the run-in, those 2 at home.
I'm not going to tempt fate.
Don't let history confuse you with where those 2 teams are right now.
It's not to me. It's not like the competition. Like, we'll definitely beat them. It's just whether or not they'll kick the crap out of our players and injure somebody.
Oh.
Because that's happened a few times the last couple of years against both of them, because they don't like getting embarrassed by us. Obviously, that's what worries me about those two matches, not the win or lose as much.
That's not a bad call.
I hope Andy Robinson does a flying burrito on Richarlison. That's I don't mind if he gets sent off. Just a straight flying burrito, just flattens him.
Well, if we look at the timing of that probably means that he misses. Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
I'm okay with Tsimikas playing. Honestly, like I am. I'm okay. I've made my peace with like him being a more than serviceable a substitute for Andy Robertson.
I would say I would not want Tsimikas playing against City or against Bayern, but against basically everybody else, that we're going to play. I think be totally comfortable with Tsimikas playing.
Yeah.
But I don't want Robbo against for those top matches. But I like Tsimikas. He's a really good player. I hope he stays and continues playing for us as a backup rather than leaving. But he might end up leaving. If the club's interested in him.
I think we just need a few more trophies for him to dip his feet in, and then we'll be okay. So, okay.
Get your feet up the trophy, you dirty bastard! You're planning on drinking champagne out of that in a second, you pillock.
It is hilarious. I mean, he's basically. I think he's got the nicknames the Greek Scouser now, right?
Scouser, yeah.
It is funny. He's just fit right in.
Yeah.
So I don't think he will leave because he just seems to love it so much. But
did you see that there was something floating around on the intertubes about how the guys had to go out and have some of their teammates sing their song? And
I don't have a song.
Like, I don't have a song, you assholes. So Ibu made one up on like a little wrap up like on the spot for him, and apparently it had some bad French words in it too because they bleeped them out. I'm like, I have no idea what he's saying, but they still bleeped them out.
I did not see it, but we should put the link to that in the podcast. Okay, I think we're probably done for this evening. It's getting late. Sean, Daz, thank you. It was wonderful to see you both again. I think we will be back after the Watford game. I say that because we didn't even talk about the Watford game, and now I'm like nervous that we should have paid it more attention. If you
7:30 this Saturday, right?
It's 7:30 kickoff, here on the East Coast. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll be joined by our Watford friend who's hoping for us to take a dip in form. Anyway, if you enjoy, I'm sure he's not listening to this, but anyway, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Follow us on Twitter.
Not the Watford friends.
No, yeah. Well, hey, we're okay with any viewers. You might learn something on here. you might.
Please watch us.
What a terrible exit. Anyway, so follow us on Twitter. We only tweet and retweet from sources that are credible.